Welcome back to Sounds Like a Bell. Today we're going to talk about idea sex. And this is bringing two ideas together to make something totally new. Steve Jobs did this. I took a calligraphy course, and that helped him design some things he was working on. And we use it all the time. Two ideas, two things that don't usually belong together. We bring them together and create something totally new. So one example could be the Zen circles that I talked about last week. A Zen circle became a Zen spider. And that gave me the idea for the story about the Zen spider. There are probably a million other examples of bringing ideas together. Something that's an adjacent idea, but a little bit different, is when one thing becomes another. And I have an example. When I was a child, I think I was 3, I told my father that the trees were talking to each other under the ground. He didn't know what I was talking about, but I thought it was very funny. And I kept getting down on the ground and listening to the roots. And they were making like a clacking sound inside the roots. And I guess the trees do make sound under the ground. I've heard about that recently. And they do communicate chemically. And their roots reach out for each other. Rather than reaching for water, they reach out for each other. So these are when one thing becomes another. Just a tree becomes trees that are talking to each other and becoming a forest. And there are other things where two things come together and become something else. I live in Maui. I live on the slopes of Haleakala, which is a volcano. It just looks like a big mountain, but I look at Haleakala, I think, see what can that become when one thing becomes something else. And I thought, it can become a beating heart under the ground. So I like to call this and that of creativity, when one thing becomes another. Similar to, but a little bit different from idea sex, which is putting two things together that don't normally belong together. There's a tree outside my window that, it's just a lehua tree, but it looks like, from this angle, a big woolly mammoth that's sleeping on top of a tree. That's what it looks like. So it becomes something else. The tree becomes the woolly mammoth. There's another plant that has a long neck. It looks like a swan. So that plant becomes a green swan. You can think of it in all kinds of ways. I know when I was a child, this is my normal way of thinking, is that everything becomes something else. That's just a creative process. And putting two things together that don't normally belong together, that can be anything. But you can think of things when you're taking a walk, movement. That movement is very important to creativity. It brings out ideas as your mind just kind of drifts from one thing to the next. It's not a strict meditation in that sense. It's more of just an open meditation where your mind is wandering from one thing to the next and bringing things together. So I suggest that you try that. Just try taking a walk and enjoying the movement, and the movement becomes something else. Sometimes when I am working and I'm doing something physical, it becomes dancing. And so that's also a kind of movement, but it's not the same movement. So anything can become something else. And two things can always be put together Didn't come up with a third. So that's the path to creativity for today. Thank you.